Hello again, guys. So, as I promised, today we're having a look at the snare from the second video, I think. I was showing this bass from this track. Yeah, and I told you, I promised you guys that I was going to show you how to make the snare. So, there we go. Let's solo the snare channel. Okay, so first of all, this is the snare group. There's a few layers here, but also take in consideration that the snare also sounds good because it has some hats layered on top, and there's lots of effects on the drum bus. So I'm gonna mute everything on the drums bus for the difference. I mean, it sounds good to start with without all these effects, but obviously sounds way better with all these effects on. So let me turn that off, and let me turn off all these effects here on the snare bus, and let's see how it sounds. Okay, it's not that much of a difference as it is from the whole drums bus, but on the snare bus also some difference. So let's start off with the transient. Let me turn all of these. Actually, I don't need to do this. I can just do it like this. Okay, so transient, it's very simple. It's a transient from 0. So I normally do this with a sine wave and some envelopes controlling pitch and the volume. So the first envelope, as you can see, all of them are on envelope mode, all the LFOs. I prefer to use the LFOs. The first one is controlling the volume very fast. There we go. Second one is controlling the pitch, also very fast. Okay, and the last one, another one also controlling the pitch. Okay, then I have some pink noise pitched up and another envelope LFO using the envelope mode controlling the volume of the noise. Okay, and this is where you start to make the transient and that noise, that little tail, sounding different. So you can make it a little bit longer, you can change the pitch, you can change the shape. To make it your own. And then on the filter section, I'm only filtering the noise here. Okay, I'm not filtering the sine wave from the transient. Also, I'm changing the phase to 90 degrees, where you can, because it was clicking better this way, but you can leave it at 180. Okay, but 180 is gonna be in the middle, so if it's at 90, it's gonna be at the peak. Okay, so it's most likely gonna peak every time. I'm not that big into that technical part of Serum, so I don't really know how to visualize that, but let's get into the noise section. So here in the filter, I'm just giving it some character because the white noise was good as it was. And I'm using the same envelope that's controlling the volume, it's controlling the cutoff just a little bit, it's opening up the filter a bit. Okay, and nothing on the effects chain. Normally you can put, for example, another EQ. Let's say something like this. start giving it some other character. Okay, but I just really wanted to click. So that's it for serum. Let's go on to the next thing, and we have some camel fat. Already you can see the big difference. I'm only using the distortion module from camel fat with lots of tube distortion and some exciting. Very simple. Moving on, and we have some more saturation, lots of drive. Just want to make sure that this transient is really big. Some EQ, because if I put an EQ here, let me show you. You can see all this information that we don't need. At least for this track, I don't like that the transient has that much sub. So I'm cutting it out. And then this one just using the limiter, because you can see it is peaking, so just using as a limiter. That's it for the transient. Moving on, we have the first tone of the snare, and this is another snare that I've made myself in Serum. I can put this snare on the next month's pack if it hasn't yet. Let me show you how the snare sounds like. So this is how the snare sounds like, and I just want the tone, because the tone is really saturated. I just want the tone. So you can see I'm fading in the transient. I just want that sine wave, and you can make that in Serum very simple. Just make a sine wave, put some envelopes, choose the note that it's playing. It's obviously in tune. You can see it's in F. It's in tune with the track, and I'm cutting out basically everything but the tone. Some saturator on a medium curve to give some more distortion. And then I'm sidechaining this with the transient. So right here we already start to have the snare, and I thought that this tone wasn't enough, so I duplicated the track, made it a little bit lower on volume, and pitched it up for 5 semitones, I think. It's playing a fourth, it's not even a fifth, so the track is in F, and I'm playing the A sharp here. You can barely listen to it with the whole snare on, but it does make a difference in a way, because I thought that it gave a little more body to the track, and it's the same thing. It's the same snare, but then again, I just need that tone, distortion, and sidechain from the transient. Moving on, and we have some part of the tail and body of the snare right here. There we go. And I'm gonna show you how the snare sounds originally. So obviously this is a snare, a vintage snare that's recorded from a real snare drum from Splice. I really like old vintage analog sounding drums, real recorded drums and breaks. You can find a lot of those free on the internet, and there's also a few good ones on Splice. And I just wanted that little bit of tail on the high end of the EQ, so I cut the transient, cut the tail, distorted a lot, pitched it up by 1 semitone, cut all the other information that I don't need, because I already have the tone and I already have the transient, so I only need the tail. That's what I want from this. Sidechain and the gate. For some reason I'm using the gate from Fab Filter here. I normally don't use this one. I normally either use the simple gate from Ableton. Where is it? The gate, or the one from Isotope. The Isotope was on 5. I really like that gate. And this one here, it's basically the same thing. Let me show you the main sample. Okay. So this is another snare, really tight snare, and I'm cutting the most of the tail because I want to make a short snare. I am cutting the transient. Already on just like this, it sounds way better. Distortion and EQ. As I said, with this one here, I only need the tail, the high end, so those little funny harmonics that define the character, and don't need a transient or the tone, and sidechain, and there we go. Basically ended with some white noise almost on this one, and this one gives it more the tone of the snare. All together, there we go. And then let's see what I'm doing here. Let's start with this EQ. So I'm just cutting the lows. Once again, I'm cutting the lows. Then the saturator is only serving as a limiter. And I thought that the snare was really big in a way that it had not that much dynamic change from the transient to the tail. It was sounding very flat, so I compressed it. And now so the compressor is really fast on the attack. Actually, sorry, very slow on the attack. So it starts compressing after the transient. So you can hear the transient at low normal volume, and then it goes down to minus 30 dB, and then takes 37 milliseconds to come back up. And that's what I want. I want a big transient, and then the tail to fade out. I'm obviously not compressing that much. I could go harder. Like this, but I just wanted a little bit of compression here. And then I'm saturating again. And then I have the SSL from Brainworks Plugin Alliance. Just giving it some volume here and some highs, nothing else going on. I really love these channel strip plugins. So I'm giving it some 2 dB on the high frequencies, and then I'm giving it just a little bit of volume on the input. Let's not give that too much. And here is at 0 again. I'm using the TMT module, and that's how it sounds. And then some transient mastering, again cutting the tail. And this limiter that I've showed before, just for the safe bass on the tone, because I was feeling that the tone was too stereo, so I just monoed it. While we're here, might as well just show you what's going on the drums bus that changes so much the sound. So this is a filter that's automated, doesn't matter what's going on. Let's turn all of these off. Let's start with the first one. It's a gate. As I just said, I was experimenting with the Fab Filter Pro gate, so I'm just getting a little bit. You cannot even hear it on the snare. It's probably just getting the hats. I'll have to check it out. Yeah, just making the hats a little bit shorter. Okay, let's go back to the snare, and then there's this module for the RX 950 that I really love. It's like $20, I think, and You can put some input gains, so you can control the output level. It has a filter built in. It's really good. You can put the things to mono. I really love this tiny module. It sounds great. Sounds great. Just giving it a little bit of volume. Okay, some saturator. And these two together already make a big difference. Okay, some reverb, the Valhalla room. Okay, controlling the stereo again on and stereo and mono again on the drums. This is more for the kick. It's not even reaching the snare. And then I have another channel strip. Again, some input gain, some gain on the high frequency range. Not really anything going on the other frequencies, but I'm also using this for the filter here. It's being automated, as you can see here. Oop. Yeah, the high pass filter and the low pass filter are being automated throughout the track. And then a limiter. Just giving a little bit of volume and limiting. And that's it for the snare. Obviously the snare sounds different when you layer it with the hats. Sounds better. And I do know that I have some other hats around here. Some addictive drums. I can make a video on addictive drums. I used addictive drums for a while, mainly for snares. So obviously the snare sounds better with all these hats layered. Cheeky little secret there. And that's it for the snare. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, let me know, and see you. Bye bye.